Welcome back to Daily Flash. Our next guest is Melissa Cade Garcia, and she has a new book out called The Reality of Rejection. In the book, she talks about how the sharp pain of rejection can often leave people in shock and fear, but there are ways to work through it. Please welcome Melissa to Daily Flash. Hey, Melissa.
Hi there. How are you? Thank you
Very
for having me. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure to have you. Whether it's a relationship or even a career rejection, it's all painful. You have 3 steps on how to deal with it. Let's start with the first step. You say acknowledge your emotions.
Yes, we need to acknowledge our emotions, and I'll start by this. Humans were created for connection. So when rejection happens, the opposite of connection, there is, a pain, discomfort that comes along. And often we experience those first as children, and we don't know what to do as a 3-year-old, when that disconnect happens. So our soul begins to create self-defense mechanisms to kind of divert that. And so we're functioning on these emotions that our soul has built up through childhood. We don't even really realize it. So we suppress all of these things. And so when it rears its head in adulthood, we have to acknowledge the discomfort. We have to acknowledge the emotion. And I call that the power of self-connection, and it'll change your life. So we live in a society where people tend to suppress or overreact. And
Sure.
neither of those things get us anywhere. So we want to really stop and explore the emotion as opposed to ignore the emotion.
And that brings us to your second point where you say reflect and learn from it.
Yes. So I do believe that emotions are important, but they should not dictate our lives. We need to pay attention to them. I consider them data for the soul. So you simply
Nice.
want to you want to step back instead of reacting, because what we normally do is our self defense mechanisms subconsciously they shoot up to protect us, and we want to react, and that can have us fly into a fit of rage. It could have us have our own little pity party. It could have us put up a wall. That's reacting. We want to respond. You want to stop, and you want to take a step back, and you want to think about what you're feeling. And really the goal is to get to the root of why you're angry. We know the feeling, but why are you feeling that way? That's, the bottom line of it. We want to respond instead of reacting.
And you also say your third tip here is to cultivate resilience and self-compassion.
Yes. And so a couple of things here. This happens outside of the first 2 steps, where you're going to have to come to the realization that whatever rejection you faced as a child that is trying to protect you now has no significance on your worth. And also the other realization is that when rejection does happen, it has nothing to do with us, and it's often comes from the state of mind of the rejecter or their perspective. So we have to learn that it really never was about us. That's the first thing. And then the other realization is we were not meant to be disgruntled. We were not meant to be discontent. We were not meant to live just distracted. That's not what was meant for us. We want to get back that part of us and become that whole human that was kind of taken apart, when we were younger, and started building these self-defense mechanisms. So we have to look at the body, the mind, and the soul. So when we think about the body, in order to cultivate resilience and self-compassion, you think about regular physical activity because it helps reduce stress, eating well, sleeping well. All of those will give you clarity of mind and build resilience. Spiritually speaking, it depends on a person's core values. So if you're, for myself, I'm a person of faith, so prayer really works well for me. It might be meditation for others, spending time in nature. Whatever it takes to connect to the Creator, we're looking for, we're looking for peace and for purpose. And then the last part of us, I'm sorry.
I was going to say we are out of time, Melissa. Thank you so much. For more information and to get a copy of Melissa's book, The Reality of Rejection, please visit transformativeconnections.com. net.